6 p.m. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Daman Zaman. The headlines. The Prime Minister says India is attempting to change the demography of Kashmir through ethnic cleansing. Pakistan has demanded of India to ease curfew restrictions in occupied Kashmir on the eve of Eid al-Azha and allow the Kashmiri people to freely offer sacrifices of animals to perform their religious obligations. The leading international daily New York Times says Kashmir has turned into a living hell following India's latest moves in the territory. In occupied Kashmir, the communications blackout continues for the 7th consecutive day today. The nation will celebrate Eid al-Azha tomorrow with religious fervor. Saudi Arabia has called for dialogue between the warring parties in Yemen. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Imran Khan says curfew crackdown and impending genocide of Kashmiris in the Indian-occupied Kashmir is unfolding exactly according to Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh's ideology, inspired by Nazi ideology. In a tweet today, he said India is attempting to change the demography of Kashmir through ethnic cleansing. Raising question, the Prime Minister said, will the world watch and appease as they did Hitler at Munich? He said he has his reservations that this RSS ideology of Hindu supremacy, like the Nazi Aryan supremacy, will not stop in the occupied Kashmir and instead lead to suppression of Muslims in India and eventually to targeting of Pakistan. Imran Khan said this is Hindu supremacist version of Hitler's Lebensraum. Pakistan has demanded of India to ease curfew restrictions in occupied Kashmir on the eve of Eid al-Azha and allow Kashmiri people to freely offer sacrifices of animals to perform their religious obligations. This was stated by the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi while talking to Radio Pakistan's correspondent Haider Abbas today. He said this year Pakistan will celebrate Independence Day to express solidarity with the Kashmiri brethren of occupied Kashmir. To a question, he said since the martyrdom of Burhan Muzaffar Wani in 2016, Kashmiris have shown great courage and passion against the continued oppressions by India. He said due to curfew and clampdown in the valley, all the countries have issued travel advisories consequently, and business of tourism has been shut down. The Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Information and Broadcasting, Dr. Firdaus Ashikawan, has urged the international community to support the upholding of principles, truth, and rule of law by stopping the extremism of Indian Modis. In a tweet, she saluted the great sacrifices of Kashmiris and said their high spirits and commitment to the cause have defeated India. The Special Assistant said support of Kashmiris who are fighting for their constitutional and democratic right is akin to supporting the truth, principles, and democracy. Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Maliha Lodhi, says Pakistan is ready to use any diplomatic and political option to secure justice for the oppressed Kashmiris. In an interview with British television network Sky News, she said when India does not want to be a partner for peace, we then look towards the world mediators and the United Nations. Dr. Maliha Lodhi said she has briefed the Polish ambassador, Joanna Ronenka, who is also the president of the United Nations Security Council, for the month of August on the grave crisis sparked by India's action in Kashmir. The Pakistani envoy said she has also met a number of her counterparts, including the permanent and non-permanent members of the Security Council. Leading international paper New York Times says Kashmir has turned into a living hell of anger and fear following India's latest moves in the territory. In its detailed report, the paper notes that on the streets of Srinagar, the Indian troops stand grabbing their guns with positions behind checkpoints, and people glance out of the windows of their homes, afraid to step outside. The paper reports that due to curfew and communications blackout, many people are cutting back on meals and are getting hungry. They are frightened, furious, and besieged by the seismic events of this week. This is Radio Pakistan. In occupied Kashmir, the communications blackout continues for the seventh consecutive day today as internet and telephone links are snapped and media is gagged since Monday last. The Indian government had snapped television, telephone, and internet links to prevent demonstrations against its decision of revoking Article 370 of the Indian Constitution that granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, the Indian authorities continue to clamp curfew and other restrictions across occupied Kashmir by converting it into a military garrison and a concentration camp by deploying troops and police personnel in every nook and corner of the territory. India's Congress Party has demanded a statement from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the situation in occupied Kashmir, saying there is violence and death in the territory. Talking to newsmen in New Delhi, the main opposition leader Rahul Gandhi said things are going very wrong in Kashmir as there are reports of people dying there. He demanded that the Indian government and the Prime Minister make clear what is happening in Kashmir. An Indian filmmaker deleted his Twitter account after his family received threats because of his tweets in which he objected to the extremist Hindu acts and had urged government to intervene. Filmmaker Anurag Kashyap wrote an open letter to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi asking him to intervene in incidents of lynching and weaponization of the slogan Jai Shri Ram into a war cry. Before deleting his account, he said in his last tweets that if freedom of expression is muzzled, then thugs will rule the country. Canada's New Democratic Party, the third largest political party of the country, has asked the Canadian government to firmly communicate its concerns to the Indian government regarding the human rights abuses in occupied Kashmir and revocation of Article 370 to change the autonomous status of the territory. In a statement, Guy Caron, the foreign affairs critic of Jagmeet Singh-led party, said the New Democrats are deeply concerned by reports of Indian government's crackdown in recent days in occupied Kashmir. Eid al-Azha will be celebrated tomorrow with religious fervor to commemorate the great sacrifice of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam. The day will dawn with special prayers in mosques for the well-being of the Ummah and progress, prosperity and security of the country. Eid congregations will be held at mosques, Eidgahs and open places in all the cities, towns and villages across the country. Ulema would deliver khutbah highlighting the significance of the day and philosophy of the great sacrifice. Citizens will offer sacrifice of animals to follow Sunnah of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. Meanwhile, sale purchase of sacrificial animals reached its peak today across the country. Eid al-Azha was celebrated in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, and other Gulf countries today with religious fervor to commemorate the great sacrifice of Prophet Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam. In Saudi Arabia, tens of thousands of Muslims offered Eid al-Azha prayers at Masjid Nabawi and the Grand Mosque in Makkah. Saudi Arabia has called for dialogue between the warring parties in Yemen. In a tweet today, the Saudi Deputy Minister of Defense, Prince Khalid bin Salman, stressed that the kingdom's support to Yemen's government and its unity and stability remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Saudi Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Adel Al-Jubair also called on all Yemeni parties in Aden to respond to the kingdom's immediate call for dialogue to take place in Jeddah. And finally, the weather. Widespread rains, wind, thunderstorm with isolated heavy falls are expected in Hyderabad, Thatta, Karachi, Shahid Benazirabad, Makran, Kalat divisions, while at scattered places in Mirpur Khas, Sakkar, Larkana, Quetta, Job, Kalat, Sibbi, Nasirabad, Dera Ghazi Khan, Sargoda, Faisalabad, Malakand, Hazara, Kohad, Bannu, Dera Ismail Khan divisions, and Kashmir. And that is the end of this news bulletin. For more news and analyses, log on to our website, radio.gov.pk, and you can also watch the live video streaming of our bulletins on the link, facebook.com/Radio Pakistan News Official.